Hey, welcome in. Today we're going to be talking about the 2% rule in real estate, how we apply it, how do we figure it out, where do we actually use it, is it likely that we'll even get it, right? So if you're interested in that, make sure you stay tuned. Let's jump right in. Okay, so let's talk about it. Essentially, the 2% rule, what it is explained, is just, let me write it up here. I'm gonna write it up here for you guys. 2% rule is just purchase price. Should I spell this out or should I keep it small? I'll just keep it small. Purchase price, since you guys see what it's talking about, plus rehab, right? Now, these numbers are both good indicators. That's the whole thing, right? This is not just the purchase price. This is the whole thing. What it's going to take to get this property rented. Now, times 2%. That's exactly what it is. And in this particular case, right, if we got purchase price plus rehab is $100,000 times 0.02, what's this going to leave us with? Should leave us with $2,000, right? That's the 2% rule. Now, I got to be honest, this is a disclaimer here. We do this particular property this way because we want it to cash flow, right? Now, this is in no way, shape, form, or fashion an indication of whether you should do a deal or you should not do a deal, right? This is going to line up with your particular goals, regardless of what that is for you, right? So, take it for what it's worth. It may not be the perfect deal for you, but if I'm in markets, there was a video going around and it said the top 4 markets to invest in. I believe there was Jacksonville, Florida. I believe there was Cleveland, Ohio. There was like the Memphis, Tennessee. There was another market out there. Maybe I'm missing some. Maybe I added one that wasn't supposed to be there. But essentially what the video was saying is properties that can cash flow. That's all it's saying. It's not saying that, for me, when I look at it from an investor standpoint, it's not actually saying that these are the top markets to invest in. Because no, that's not the indication at all. Not from my perspective, because I know how to do deals. I understand appreciation. But from a cash flow perspective, cash flow meaning whatever you rent, whatever your mortgage is, plus minus whatever you're renting it for, that's going to leave you a lump sum of money, right? That's your cash flow. In markets like Memphis, markets like Cleveland, and markets like Jacksonville, Florida, markets like anything in Michigan, really, those are going to be cash flowing markets, right? Where you can go into a property, you can buy it for, say, all in $30,000, and you can rent it out for $600, $700, $800 a month. That is a cash flowing market, right? Now, the problem that you have in markets like this, now some markets you can find is a little bit more expensive, but the problem that you have in markets that's very, very small is that the ability to go in and actually get bank financing for them, right? So say if you're somebody from California that's sitting on a lump sum of cash, every year you save about $50,000 because you make a good lump sum of money because you live in California and it costs to live there, right? Instead of going and putting $50,000 into a property that's not going to bring you any return in a month time, right? You go to these secondary markets, that's Cleveland, anything in Michigan, Jacksonville, Memphis, right? You go to these smaller podunk neighborhoods and you just put this $50,000, you go get you a nice home, nice neighborhood or nice area, and you rent it and you cash flow on that $50,000 as opposed to going and putting that $50,000 being 20% down on something in Los Angeles, probably not even 20% down, or that $50,000 being 5% down or 3.5% down on something in Los Angeles, that's going to barely cash flow. That when rent comes due or when eviction time comes, you're left with another property, you got to put another 10 to 15 into it. You don't have to worry about that because typically 2% rules are great rules. You can't find them in the primary areas, the New York, Manhattan areas, the Los Angeles areas. But sometimes in Texas, you can find the 2% rule, right? In Texas, I'm not even gonna say sometimes. All the time in Texas, you can find the 2% rule, but it depends on the area too, right? When the prices are up in that particular area, like a lot of things are right now, it's very, very hard to find it. When there's a lot of competition, it's very, very hard to find it because you always find investors that's willing to pay a little bit more, but then they understand the appreciation side of real estate, right? They understand, yeah, I'm not gonna cash flow, but $200 a month, but it's gonna go up in value, $30,000 a year, right? You may get cash flow, but you made money that year. You're gonna take a loss on paper, but you made money on paper as well from an equity standpoint. So it's some give and take, and that's why you got to understand it. But that's essentially what the 2% rule is. It's a great rule if you're looking for, like I always say, new investors. Anything between 1 and 2% should be pretty good for a new investor. I would weigh a little bit heavier on the 2% side, or anything closer to the 2% side, just because if you don't have the reserves saved up, it's going to hit you hard if you got an eviction coming out, or if you went up on a rent and just to try to cash flow a little bit more, and then they said, okay, you're going up, that's perfectly fine, we're moving out, and you're left with $2,000. All the money that you had cash flowed the year before, all the money because you bought it at a 1% rule, all the money that you cash flowed the year before, now you're left in trouble in the year down the line. So that's what we talk about with the 2% rule, the 1% rule, all that. I know I made a video on the 1% rule, so you can check that out up there. But essentially, the 2% rule is just a rule of thumb that we use in order to figure out, is it a good property? Is it not a good property? But do we do the deal? Do we not do the deal? Like I said, these properties you can find a dime a dozen in smaller markets or secondary markets where the housing is not very expensive. But to be honest with you, would you want that? It ultimately comes down to you. Because in my perspective, if I can go into a smaller market and pay $50,000 and the $50,000 cash flow me $700 a month or even $1,000 a month, to me, that's not really worth it. Why would I park $50,000 to make $1,000? It really don't make sense, right? I need to put more money in the market and pay Uncle Sam and just do more wholesales, right? But just depending on where you are. Obviously, I'm a full-time real estate investor. I look at numbers a little bit different. But if you're somebody that love your job, you don't plan on doing anything differently, you just want to figure out how to cash flow in the future, this is the perfect way to do it without actually having to leave your job or learn a lot about real estate. Obviously, there's companies out there that you can look at and actually benefit from actually using these particular they'll set everything up using these particular companies that is like a turnkey rental program where you can just go pay them. They already got a tenant in there, the property's already rented, everything's already been vetted, the property's already been renovated, you pay in cash and you refinance out however you want to do it. But essentially, this is a way that you can build wealth without doing a lot. So, hey, with that being said, if you're new here, my name is Jordan Aubrey. Obviously, it's a late introduction, but thank you for watching to the end. Hey, I want to hear from you. Drop in the comments exactly what you thought about the video or anything that you want to know further. That way we can discuss it and possibly talk about these things moving forward. Hey, and always remember, keep winning.